thinking about some skill set that can be interchangeable to the next career, to the next role that you're thinking about. One really important like quality people should have is that you have to be more aware of project management or like the timeline management, etc. But you need to admit that there's one key thing, which is
today, I'm excited to be joined by Joey Wang, a senior software engineer and team lead over at Oracle. Joey holds a master's degree in electrical engineering and computer science from UC Berkeley, and his expertise spans database system kernels and machine learning. With a wealth of experience, Joey has contributed to notable publications, hosted internal tech talks, and even serves on the editorial advisory board of a prominent journal. Beyond his technical expertise, he's actively involved in judging tech events, making him a highly respected figure in the tech community. Today, he is here to share his insights into the day-to-day life of a senior software engineer, along with what aspiring engineers need to know to thrive in this industry. With that said, let's roll to this week's episode. Welcome, Joey, to the show.
Thanks, Dakota. Yeah. Pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm stoked to have you. Diving right on in, can you kind of walk us through what a typical day is like as a senior software engineer at Oracle?
Sure. I'm happy to share that. So I would say the typical day, it's more like a coding plus meeting. What I'm trying to say is like you can imagine every day I sign up on my laptop, I basically checking through the emails there just to making sure I won't miss anything, because we have team not just in the US but also in the India. So, when we were like getting sleep, they must be something going on. So I want to making sure that we have a clear things to making sure I won't miss any other things, and I will list all the items I have on my to-do list for today. So yeah. And then I usually will start with the high priority items, depending on what the schedule. But I would say on the average case, we do have some projects ongoing. So I will keep in track with project progress with my team members since I am the team lead for now, like 3 junior engineers. One was intern, but she went to the campus, went to school. So now it's 2 junior engineers. I'm making sure I will line with them about today's like stand up, etc. And then I just figure out coding for the features or the bug fix. So I would say that took around like 50% of time. Usually like to working on that in the morning, just feel more energetic. And afternoon is usually to be like the meeting time. Since I'm on the East Coast, but most of my team members are on the West Coast, that will be the appropriate time for them to sync up. And then the meeting will mostly involving design or bug fix or design or talk about some projects. And then I will leave a couple like 10 to 20% of time, probably when just right before I was about to sign off. So I was using the time to doing some code review, making sure that I won't miss anything. I won't unblock anyone's like items. And yeah, basically that was more like the combination between, coding, meetings, reviewing things, and etc. So yeah, pretty standard, I would say. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's actually really cool. So like, what does your day look like in a balance? Like, are you like mainly working on bug fixes? You kind of said like 50%, or are you working on like new development projects?
So I would say that depends, honestly. So for now, the first thing is like we focus on the product development side, which means we don't do really like on-call things. We do have a chance to talk to customers, but that will only happen when something really serious that's happening. We have a customer acceleration meetings within our big clients because we do database, right? Database itself is more like a actual product has been used by many clients' machines. So we usually having we have like operation folks called like Software Engineering. So they do the on-call things. So besides that, I would say depends on the thing. Recently we got more time on the project side. So that was like around like 60% of time I do project things. And for the 30% of time I do like bug fix, depending on whether we have a blowouts in my areas or just some random things coming up like every day. So I making sure I can take care of them. Yeah.
I'm curious, what's more fun for you? Do you like to work on the big picture projects, or like, do you like to be in like the heat of the moment when everything's going wrong, trying to fix the issues?
Sure. I would say I'm more like the project guy. So because I would like to like building new stuff to see how it goes. I'm more like I like to keep in touch with new stuff and say, okay, let's do this project and see how it goes and what kind of features we can improve from our particular area and bring some benefit to our system team, etc. So there would be more like exciting things for me to do. But for sure, I mean, big bug fix is definitely that we need to have, right? We need to keeping sure like our code is in good quality. We won't block others' issues because like for myself particularly, like our area is pretty critical, which means that connects to different database components. So when there's something happening in our area, you can imagine that might brings up like couple bug fix in our sister teams. That means we have to look into that at least to understand what's going on. So that's something that we shouldn't ignore.
No, absolutely. And, that it's nice to have that wide range of, variety. One thing like I worried about when I got into the tech field is like, as I started getting into the senior roles, kind of getting siloed off into like doing one thing. Do you still feel like you get to do a good variety, or do you feel like you're starting to get siloed off as you get into those higher level positions?
So I would say now since I become senior, I wish I could. I mean, sometimes I do miss the old time that I can focus on one single stuff, like one single solo project, or I can spend some time to figure out the code base because I don't have other items. But so far, I mean, become senior means that you have more responsibility. You might have different projects ongoing parallel, and then different things, different people like reach out to you because you're now at the point of contact for a couple areas, right? They sometimes just say, hey, Joey, can we have a meeting, discuss some of the items, some of the issues, get some input? So yeah, I mean, I do miss the old time, but yeah, I do think that in the current role for me, I can bring up more like impact. I can have all my like influence on across different teams, and then we can do more things, much more things that I can do. Let's say like 4 years ago when I just joined Oracle. So far, you can imagine that now I have like 3 projects ongoing. One of them have the deadline to be in 3 months, and the remaining of 2, we set the target to be a half year, like in 6 months. But besides that, we still have some bugs coming out, so we need to also figure it out as a regression. So yeah, many things are ongoing. So we have to figure out what's the priority, for day-to-day life. Okay, what's the things we need to set up? What's the end goal for this particular feature of what kind of project? So yeah, it's more like the thing like when you become senior, you have to be more aware of the project management or like the timeline management, etc. So yeah.
Well, yeah. Speaking of that, how do you manage your workload with so many different things going on at once? Like, how do you like prioritize like what to focus on in a given day?
Yeah, that's for sure like a big challenge for me, especially like I try to learn how to doing that. I'm not fully sure I'm now like an expert on that, but at least I'm doing better than let's say like me 2 years ago. So yeah, so I usually, like I mentioned, I have a to-do list, right? So every day I try to make like my to-do list and up to date, right? So in the to-do list, I try to make like T0 items, T1 items, T2 items. And then for this priority things, firstly, I try to making sure I have a right sense or like a rough sense at least about how important, how urgent this issue to be. And then to better confirm my understanding, I usually will sync up with the stakeholders for these items. For example, like when a new project comes in, I usually talk to my senior, like my manager, or other like architects, other senior folks to align with them to see, okay, what's the expectation for the deliverable? Like when should be the deadline? And when should we like say we will meet for the further discussion? That usually become like an internal deadline to say at least we need to have something before the meetup, right? So I try to using this like way to making sure that both not just me but also on the other side, like different folks can have the same understanding about okay what kind of state it would be, and then when we should have like new updates. Because I mean I wish I can do everything like in parallel. I can do everything as soon as possible, but I mean we are just human, so the resource, the energy is limited. So you need to focus on what's the most important things every day. So yeah, I mean, I try to master that. I'm trying to learn that, but yeah, that's still trying to making sure we are on the same page. We are on a good pace. And another thing,
it can be difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And the another thing I feel like I kind of like learning that especially like this year or like say like last year since I become like team lead, it's like trying to learn about how to like delegate the work to the junior folks. With that being said, it's not like saying, okay, I don't do anything. I just let the junior do all the things. But the thing is like for some tasks, some small tasks, even for a big project, you can have your ability to divide the big project into smaller and manageable pieces. And you can making sure when you provide enough instruction, you can let the junior folks to learn and to practice. And then using that as an opportunity to grow, to become more mature and the strong individual contributor in the team, right? They can be like trustworthy, like team guys that you can rely on in the future. So that was something I was trying to learn and become aware of that since last year, to see that they can definitely, to do things very well, they can definitely shine when they given such opportunities. And by doing that, which means, with that being said, I'm not like, when there are new bug fix comes in and when there's new bug comes in, even though it's in my area, I'm not longer to be the person to solve this issue. Sometimes I would triage that, giving it initial thoughts. But sometimes, depending on the case, depending on the bandwidth of my junior folks, I will decide to whether I should assign to that. And then let's say in a week, we can catch up. And I believe you will be able to figure this out. So yeah, but basically plan ahead and then assign the works if needed so that we can redistribute the load and the resource better. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And, that's something I've had to kind of learn in the last couple of years is, delegating tasks, I think it's a common trend in the tech industry, is to kind of have that superhero syndrome. Like, oh, I can do it all by myself. And, especially when you start getting more seniority under your belt, that becomes really difficult because you get so much piled on you and so many people counting on you. Yeah. You can't just do it all. For sure. You got to learn how to delegate, when appropriate. So, that's a talent in itself, I feel.
Yeah. And the one thing is like, we are one team, right? We build out the same product. I mean, let's make it work. I mean, it's not like saying, like you mentioned, superhero. It's no longer the time, at least. I would say let's utilize the resource as a team. Like we try to build out the whole thing together. We have the same goal for sure. So yeah.
Well, speaking of like collaboration and teamwork, like how much of your work is collaboration where you're delegating and working with the team versus you got to kind of go off on your own and do your own individual projects?
So I would say that depends. Like when I was before junior or just promoted senior, most of the time I do solo things like solo bug fix, solo projects. But when I become senior, I mean, the scope of the project becomes larger. With that being said, like, for example, the project becomes not just like the feature in my like area for space management. That could be like a feature that collaborates or like related to other like layers. For example, like a recovery, like a flashback, like some other features, and even a higher layer like a DDL or like a statement-wise things. With that being said, it's a crossing project. So you can be really like you can be like a superhero on that particular areas, but that would depend. That means that you might have like tons of years of experience on database code. I wish I could, but unfortunately, I'm not really that capable. And I do believe that for those kind of things, let the expert in that area to figure this out. So with that being said, that means we need to collaborate with other teams to sync up with other engineers or that who own that file or who have more knowledge on that particular layer, so we can collaborate with each other, come up with a plan, and then see how we can implement such a feature as expected. So I would say recently, the ratio between the solo things and the teamwork thing, I would say it's around probably half and half, like, because I still have my things ongoing and yes, for some solo things that I feel like I should be the one to figure it out. I still code it. So
no, and it's important to be able to be adaptable, in your roles.
For sure. Yeah.
Being a good team player is really important for your development. You can learn a lot from your other team members, but also being able to work on your own and kind of go off on your own task is also, and stay on point with those tasks is big too. And there's also like a level of trust you build up with your management and stuff.
For sure.
When
Yeah.
you're able to complete your tasks on your own and, not require extra assistance. So, but
Yeah.
I'm curious, um, what is one of your favorite things about your role you currently have?
Well, I would say that that's a really good question. So I would say the most favorable part I had from my current role would be like the opportunity to keep in touch with different folks. So I'm more like a teaming guy, which means I'm not really like that into solo project. I like to coding, but sometimes I do feel like I'm more enjoyable when I collaborate with different team members, get to know their paces, and then we can collaborate with each other for like team project. So that would be a more like exciting experience for me, just to see we form a team, we work together, we work hard, and then we push through, and then finally we made it. Such like accomplishment. It's more like the rewarding like the experience for me, especially that if I am the guy form the team and deliver the whole thing end to end, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. So
I can imagine that's like a rewarding feeling. And I'm curious, are you remote or like in person? Like, do you get that in person interaction or?
so yeah. So for now I'm remote. But
Yeah.
I moved to New York City like 2 years ago. Before that, I was in the Bay Area. So most of the team members are in the Bay Area. So that
Ah,
we can talk, we can sync up face to face. And I do miss the time that we can do in person. So yeah, I wish. I mean, I do have a plan, but yeah, in the near future, I might be able to move back to the Bay Area just to
mhm.
getting the old experience revived, and then let's see.
I'm curious if you don't mind me asking, like, did you know C before you got your current job or did you like learn it on the job? Like, cause C's been around for a long time. So,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not something like you typically hear people learning.
Actually, I do use C before because I got CS degree for my both like undergrad and grad school. So I learned C when I was undergrad, when I was in UFI in University of Illinois. So we took some like system level classes like system programming, computer architectures. At the time, we used C for it's the same
Nice.
thing for the system like kernel OS things. So it's not my first experience when I do the work using C. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
and that I definitely can imagine made the transition a whole lot easier and landing that job is already having that experience.
for
But
sure.
speaking of
Yeah.
like kind of learning skills and stuff, how do you keep up to date? Like the industry is evolving so rapidly nowadays, how do you find time to not only study, but like what do you study like in a role like yours?
Sure. So I would say that a couple of things. The first thing is like I'm not actually that into tech blogs. I know some of the guys they're really like passionate about the latest tech blogs and then about the technologies. I wish I could, but I'm not that guy. So that's more like a disclaimer. So what I do is I try to follow like the tech news. That's the thing because I do want to have a better understanding on the industry for sure. So it's more like every day I wake up or before I sign on for the work, I watch like tech crunches, for some like up to date like news. That's the first thing. And for the other side, it's like I try to use in my spare time, especially this year, try to keep in touch with some machine learning research. I try to keep in touch with some machine learning like research communities and collaborate with them to work on some projects and even if possible publish some papers. So I using this as opportunity to at least learn some recent trends in the academia side, just to get to know, okay, for the machine learning perspective, like what kind of like machine learning techniques are pretty popular so far, and what kind of potential improvement we can do. I was more focused on that particular side just to see what kind of possibilities we can do for solving some projects. So, but I would say that's more like a things like trying to find out some project experience, but eventually I just make it to be converted to be like a paper, etc. But that would be the most two direction I go for following the industry or following the news.
I do the same thing, on my day, like on my drive into work, I'm lot of times I find myself listening to like different tech podcasts, trying to keep up with the industry trends. And I have a variety of like Security Weekly or, Today in Tech, or, there's quite a few different ones. But it gets really overwhelming sometimes to try to keep up with all the latest trends. And it almost feels like you stop for a second and you're falling behind, and it's near impossible to get caught up. But staying relevant, I think is really important because, the industry is going to change, and either you're going to be able to adapt with it or you're going to fall behind. For sure. One example I would say is like, who will know ChatGPT will come in 2 years ago, right? I mean, 5 years ago, right. One example I always want to share is like 5 years ago, when I was in college, I thought I have an idea to become grad school, become a researcher. At that time, my research topic was natural language processing. Okay. At the time, we're still thinking about to build AI. That means you need to think about some linguistics models, okay, to make sure it works. And I don't believe like me 5 years ago would know, okay, what the heck was going on for ChatGPT. I mean, what is that large language model? And I would say that definitely changed the lives for people for sure. And it's so powerful, honestly. It's so powerful. Even today, I use ChatGPT for some of the things, for sure. And it's become a necessary tool. And it's basically, at least from my knowledge, it's basically revolutionized the whole industry for machine learning, AI, and for sure NLP. It basically reprioritize the entire research direction for natural language processing. So yeah, so that means you have to catch up the trend for sure. So since you brought up AI, I got to ask the question that I constantly get asked. I want your opinion on it. Do you think AI and ChatGPT is going to start replacing jobs in the industry? Well, I would say yes and no. Yes means that ChatGPT or those AI generated tools definitely doing something fascinating jobs on some simple or routinable tasks. With that being said, for example, when I write email, just an example, today I use ChatGPT to draft my email. I feel like it is doing a better job than I do. I usually just write some some sentence. I forget about the syntax. I just say, okay, I just tell the ChatGPT, help me to rewrite this, and it provide a perfect sentence, perfect tone, perfect attitude, and I'm really satisfied with that. So that definitely becomes my secretary to do the whole things for me. But on the other side, I do admit that those AI tools do a really good job on some kind of task like this, like text processing job. But you need to admit that there's one key thing, which is you couldn't using the AI to replace the whole human beings. From my experience, it's you must have something you must have someone to manage those AI tools. With that being said, for example, ChatGPT may having some mistakes, and you will never know if you don't really know what's going on, right? And what happens when the mistake actually happens? They can be a big problem. For example, if you manage a company and then you replace all human labors to be ChatGPT, and when the error happens, when the mistake happens, you may lose tons of revenue, and there's no one that can hold the responsibility. Maybe yourself. So I think with that being said, you have to still know that the human has its values. It's not replaceable. Just how to say that? It's just not like the machines. So there is the key difference, because you couldn't let the ChatGPT to figure their mistakes and hold the responsibility, right? So I always say these key things that we should be aware of. I'm guilty of using ChatGPT a lot and my day-to-day stuff, and I use it for the simple things. I'll give it hey, this is what I want the email to contain. Let's help me formulate this in a better way. I'd never take it verbatim. I don't just copy and paste it and be done with it. I always first of all, I proofread it, because I've caught it. They call it hallucinating, where it just goes off on these wild rants that is totally not factually correct. And so I've caught it being incorrect. And so first of all, I check it for that. And second of all, it does a good job of getting close to my tone of writing, but it's not quite there. So I always use it for like idea starters, especially like on my YouTube channel. I don't have it write my scripts. I have it like, hey, these are some ideas I have. Help me start to connect the dots here. And then like, it'll get to a tipping point.
I use the same similar way. Yeah. To try to make some transitions between couple like sentences, for example. Yeah.
Exactly. And it'll start connecting the dots for me. And then I'll just find myself all of a sudden, what would have taken me hours to like come up with the idea. I'm like, it takes me a couple seconds on ChatGPT, and then boom, I can just be off doing, what I wanted to be doing. So that's really cool to utilize that resource. And everyone always asks me that question. So I had to get your opinion on it. But
for sure. Yeah. It's definitely safe many time for human beings. Like this is a typical example for sure. Thinking back, it's like I couldn't imagine the life without ChatGPT, honestly.
And I tell everyone, if you use AI as the tool it is, and use it to help accelerate your, advance your career, you're going to have no problem. AI is not going to replace you. It's those people that are stuck in the corner saying, oh, AI is after our jobs, Skynet's real, and not willing to adapt. Those are the people that is going to end up replacing, but for every job I feel that ChatGPT replaces, it's creating other jobs. They're just not the same as like you said, the entry, like the very basic level jobs, it's just evolving, like 20 years ago or plus, before internet was invented, tech support looked totally different than it does now.
Exactly.
It's just a constant evolution. So it's just the next evolution in the industry. But speaking of evolving and stuff, I'm curious about like career growth. You obviously didn't just wake up one day and said, I'm going to be a senior software engineer for Oracle. Like how was your career progression? You went to college, and then was it just like you snapped your fingers and had a job, or how did that go down?
I would say that to this particular question, maybe I should start from the very beginning. So yeah. So typically, I was not like the student that came to a pretty clear mindset to say, I want to become a software engineer like during high school. I'm not that guy. So I honestly, at the very beginning, I was a math major. I have no idea. I was like typical, maybe a typical Asian kid. Like I'll say, my parents told me that, okay, Joey, let's do math. Math is cool. I would say math can help you to get to any kind of like places, any kind of job if possible. Then I was like, okay, fine, let's do it. So yeah, I became like a math major when I was in college as a freshman. And then I tried to participate into different like clubs, talk to different people, just to doing some fun stuff at the time, trying to exploring as a freshman. So that was the moment that I was looking into interesting projects in my dorm. So basically for freshmen, I believe it's typical to say, the college requires every freshman to be live in the student hall, right? To live in the dorm. So that was the moment we a couple guys like tried to loop me into working on some interesting project. This is one project that. So here's the context. The dorm is really large for UFI. Like with that being said, we have around 100 of students in the same building. We live together, but the problem is like the laundry room only have like 8 laundry services, including washing machine and drying machines. So it's pretty popular. It's really hard to find a spot for you to get your clothes to be washed or like dried, right? So here comes the project. So the project was like, we trying to build out an app. An app can detect the status of the laundry machines. So the thing is like the laundry machine, you have to put the coin in, and then you can make the machines to be functional, right? So that means there must be an API inside the machines that can help you to know, okay, whether this machine is currently available or not. So the project is basically that, okay, we build an app in our iPhone, and then they can in real time to know, okay, which machine is available, which machine is not. So that was like a little project, a little toy project, which is kind of interesting for me because that was the first time I tried to write some code. I tried to understand, okay, what the heck is going on under the app rather than just use that. So, and during the process, I tried to learn many things. That was the first time I learned was Swift, like, the language to build out the app, right? iOS things. And then I tried to learn about what is API? What's the actual, like, how should we write the first line of the code? How can we build out the APK file? So I feel like I do like the process. I do like the things. Like we build up something. We try to apply some fancy technologies, not just hello world. I mean, building some like real things to solving some problems. And I do enjoy such a process that we do deliver solutions and that can bring some change on our lives. So that was the moment I decided to say, okay, hey, listen, mom, I don't want to do math major anymore. I want to do some computer science things. I do feel like this thing is reverting. It's like I mentioned, it's more accomplished to do the whole things as a computer science major. And then I decided to switch and then become a CS major in UFI. And that's my journey to computer science begins. And later than that, I was more like trying to explore different things, even though in CS major. I mean, for computer science major, I mean, we have many classes we can do, many things we can do. So that's why I try to aim for down a couple like internship. I try to work with the companies just to see how it works, because it's still back to my thoughts. Like I want to see how we can solve the problems using technology. So I went to different like interns. I had 3 internships at the college, 2 in Chicago, 1 in Boston, basically do different things. And my first internship was in Chicago at Charleswave. It's a security company. So I do backend things. I do some open source framework things to doing some contribution. I like that, but I'm not fully sure what kind of direction we can do, because for CS, for computer science, one thing is like many companies in different sectors do need software engineer, but I'm not fully sure where I should go. So I'm just thinking, okay, for the next internship, let's pivot a bit to see how it looks like in the financial side. So I went to another company called like Next Capital, another financial company in Chicago, and I do full stack over there. It's a startup, so I do full stack. And then it turns out that I found out I'm not really into full stack. But at that time, I'm not fully sure it's just because of full stack or just because of the type of the company. So I went to a bigger company. It's called Wayfair. That's an e-commerce company in Boston selling some furnitures. They try to be the furniture version of Amazon. So at there, I work still for full stack. But it turns out during the whole summer, I figured there's one thing. It's like full stack is not for me. I want to do something more hardcore, more lower end, more low level side, more focused on performance. So that brings me to the college and I moved to Berkeley for UC Berkeley for my grad school. And then I got a couple of offers when I graduated, and then I decided to go for Oracle, because that was the thing. I was recruited by a specific team at database. So I know it's something that it could have some challenging things, but I'm really happy to learn more about that. So yeah, I'm done.
Awesome.
And I'm here, and then I stayed at the same team for 4 years, and then I feel like, yeah, that's the way to go.
I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, when you decided to switch from mathematics to computer science, did your family give you like a lot of pushback, or were they very supportive of you?
Well, I would say they don't have any like pushback, but because the one thing is like they are not fully sure what the heck like the computer science was. So there was a time I tried to making sure that I provide enough information to say, okay, to not like convince them, but more like a FYI purpose to see, okay, say, okay, what's the computer science look like? What kind of courses, and what's the the career trajectory for a typical computer science major? I want to not like educate them, but just to let them to be aware the context and the reason and the why I made such a decision. So after making sure that their concerns or their questions has been solved on my end, everything's clear, and they fully support my decision to switch to the computer science major in the end.
Nice. Yeah. I think it makes it a lot easier when you have, family on board supporting you, making those kind of decisions.
For sure. Yeah.
One of my questions I have for you is, you work for a large company, and, it sounds like you have a lot going on. How do you maintain that work-life balance, especially in like a high demanding field like software engineering? Like, what does your work-life balance look like?
So I would say we are kind of flexible. With that being said, it's not like say we have to sign on at the 9 a.m. and then sign off around like 6 p.m. It's not the thing that you need to swipe your card and say and let the system know, okay, what's the time you sign on, sign off. It's kind of flexible. So I think maybe it's due to the job like nature that we kind of have such like flexibility. So the thing is more like when you need to do something, you can make something delivered, right? And then it's fine. And then when people have some questions for you, you can answer that on time, and that should be all. But to me, I would say my work-life balance, I try to making sure it's in good shape. So but usually I would take like usually 7 to 8 hours per day. So it should be kind of like a regular, I would like pretty common maybe. But the one special thing I do is like well, because most of my team members are on the West Coast, so I try to accommodate their schedule. With that being said, I try to like start my work around like 11 to 12 and get to sign off to be around like 8 to 9. Just, trying to accommodate the schedule on the West Coast since I'm living in New York City. But yeah, and I try to guarantee this work-life balance, and it was working well because I trying to list out all the items, priorities. But sometimes we need to stay up a little bit just because the project is deliverable, because of some meetings. Sometimes we need to sync up with the team members in India. So that's something we couldn't avoid. But in general, I think I try to making sure we can handle that. So and the people and the whole team is aware of such a thing, so which is good.
Can you share some of like the interesting projects you've worked on, like some of the most exciting moments you've experienced in this current job you got?
Sure. I can probably talk about one of the framework I deliver end to end. So the framework is called like engineering out of resource framework. So with that being said, it's like before these projects actually like people can see many asserts in their layers. Layers means different components, right? So those asserts with completely unrelated names to be, say, like log records, timeout, or like transactions, commit, fail. But essentially, the root cause is pretty similar. They are all tied to resource. When we say resource, you can imagine it's about like physical space or about some logical quota, but they're about resource, even though they are asserting completely orthogonal. Okay, so the problem was like 2 years ago, we received many complaints from our sister teams. They're saying that they figure one issues for a couple of weeks and then find out it's a completely unrelated problem to their layers. So we see these issues repetitively, and that eventually brings like a long like backlog on my end. And then that was the time I'm thinking about, can we do something better? Can we solve this issue in a more like a intelligent way? Can we do something automate so that for these issues, maybe it would be like a simple fix or it would be like a non-issue? Can we just kind of like solve that in a more like a smarter way? That comes to like the idea for me to say, can we have like a thin layer, like a framework can sort of automate some potential issues? Can we provide some mitigations to solve these issues? So that's the very beginning when I'm thinking about such like out of resource framework. So I try to pitch this idea to the senior guys because I try to make a physical plan, but I'm not really sure if we can make it to the end. So I try to pitch that. I try to like sync up like a presentation with my manager and the other senior managers in different teams. And I would say, okay, hey, this is one thing that we can do. Here's a problem. And then this is the proposal. What kind of things we can do for that? So I try to using like 2 weeks to 3 weeks, sync up with different folks across different teams to understand their questions, their concern, their need. And eventually I come up with like a functional spec and design spec to say, okay, this is the idea of a framework, and then see, hey, they can solve the issues for this particular long backlog regarding resource related issues. And eventually that after getting the order approval, then I'm the team owner. I'm the project like owner. So that I get the resource to actually form a team with the engineers in different teams, not just like my junior folks, right? It's more like a cross-team project. So I was the guy that become like a team leader, say, okay, I have like 5 engineers across different teams, and then let's build up something together, building something, a framework, a completely new layer across the whole database components to solve such like resource-related problems. So that was more like initial stage, and in the end, and after that, I would become like the owner, become like the leader. So I form the plan for the projects, dividing some tasks, and then to figure out and sync up with them to making sure that we can hold our promise to say, okay, we can finish the entire project to merge in production in 2 months, and eventually we made it. And we even made a presentation to the entire developer group around like 80 people. And yeah, I mean, I would say that it helps a lot. And then it worked pretty well because so far after merging these like main parts of the framework, we can see that the backlogs for these resource-related problems go down around like 30 to 40% of the time. So that was working great, and I do appreciate that I can have experience getting those supports from different members to see that we can get this done. Yeah.
There was so much great information in that interview, and that's only part one. In part two, we're going to dive into everything you need to know to become a software engineer in 2025. So if you haven't already, make sure and like and subscribe and hit that bell icon so you receive notifications when that video comes out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, keep learning.